Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the Swear Word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the Chile community, by the Chile community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Man, we have an amazing episode here tonight. We have two sauces on deck for Hot or Not, a new fun breakdown for Hot or Not, and then as well as we have an amazing guest, locked and loaded, and very fun game planned. So episode 112 starts now. What's going on, Swear Nation? So glad to have everyone here rocking and rolling, tuning in, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for being here and making this show what it is. Continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads or individuals that are just curious about the world of hot, because this is where you can find everything to do with the world of hot. Man, up tonight, we have a very fun breakdown of a new way of kind of going about hot or not. So what you're going to see is a nice short down format of Hot or Not for the podcast, and you can check the full rundowns for the overall reviews on Scorching and Swearing as their own standalone along pieces there. So no worries. We're going to be getting into that. And as I go through these, we're going to be kind of refining it, making it look a little bit nicer. So definitely let me know in the comments what you think of the new shakedown of Hot or Not for the podcast. And, continue to perfect that as best as possible. But up tonight, we have Donivan from Pepper Thyme Foods. We're going to be talking about pepper and thyme, a very unique approach that he has towards these different sauces, things that inspire him, and much, much more. And of course, we're going to be diving into those Hot or Not products from Pepper Thyme. And man, oh man, they are amazing. Very fun game planned. If you would have answered the round of Keep 5, Cut 5 any different than Donivan did, let us know in the comments down below as well. And let's go ahead and jump on over to Hot or Not. Welcome on into Hot or Not. Now we are going to be breaking this one down just a little bit different here tonight. Normally the format is a little bit of a full-on review, if you will, of each product. What I have now decided to do is shrink it down, make it a little bit more concise for the podcast only. And so you will find those standalone full-length videos over there for your viewing pleasure. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and light up our taste buds with tonight's products. Up tonight, I have an amazing sauce on deck. This is from Pepper Thyme Foods. Give it a good shake. And for all those that are keeping track, yes, this does have a perforated tab on the overall cellophane. I do things a little bit different here. I don't do a 1 out of 10 scale. I do a 1 out of 5. That's based off of 5 different categories: heat, aroma, flavor, versatility, burn. Add them up, average them out. Our total swear word rating. And I do not like to read the ingredients ahead of time. I like to let my taste buds do the exploration. Looking forward to jumping into this one. And here we go. Oh yeah, very nice consistency. Has a nice medium hold on the overall sauce. Wow, beautiful, beautiful notes. Definitely picking up the Thai peppers. There is a little bit of an onion, a garlic smell. Maybe, I don't know if that's lemongrass or what that is. But there's a nice, different, fresh pop that is coming from the overall aroma on this sauce. So, cheers. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Absolutely amazing. Let's talk through the heat. Overall heat on this one, you're feeling it straight immediately on the front tip of the tongue. Overall, the whole entire mouth, just slightly touching the back of the throat. Overall, great initial flash of heat, and it does start to build just enough, but really as that burn gets going, It has drifted slightly from the tip of the tongue, more salt on the middle of the mouth and the back of the throat, and really letting it do its thing. Savory to the max on this sauce. Absolutely nice depth of umami taste, the great Thai pepper taste. You're picking up some onions, some garlic, Asian dishes, rice dishes, soups, sandwiches, burgers, pizzas, tacos. This is going to be great for any of those applications all day, any day. Proteins, rice, veggies. If you're just starting out, you'll definitely say this one is hot, but using it in moderation, finding out, mixing it with foods and finding out where you're comfortable is going to be key here. You can always add more, you can never take back. So for all of those that are working on your own personal best, you are pushing yourself all the time. This is going to be a nice medium sauce easily for you. I mean, I'm just still salivating like crazy over this, but I'm curious to know what the ingredients are. So let's go ahead and read those off. Thai Princess from Pepper Thyme Foods. We have ingredients of Saucing wine, black vinegar, Thai chilies, granulated onion, granulated garlic. And then we have onion, water, salt, citric acid, and xanthan gum. Heat coming in at 3.35, aroma of 4.2, a flavor of 4.12, versatility of a 4, a burn of a 3.7 for a total swear word rating of 3.87. There we go. Amazing sauce. Once again, this is Thai Princess from Pepper and Thyme Foods. But let's go ahead and jump on into the next masala madness. Let's see here. Look at this artwork. This is absolutely the thing that I was wanting to have shown on the screen, because look at that. I mean, absolutely stunning. Great artwork going on the side of this bottle. All those that are keeping track, it does have a perforated tear on the side of this. So nice thicker sauce on this one here. Wow. Beautiful aroma. Very creamy. Very, the spice notes are carrying forward a lot. You're picking up almost like a earthy umami note on the overall aroma of this sauce. Wow. All right. Very bright, very flavorful right off the bat, salivating like crazy. Picking up what tastes like maybe some tomato, some onion, maybe a little bit of garlic, but you're definitely picking up some umami notes from a nice mushroom taste. Something like that is coming forward on this. And towards the back end, you're really starting to pick up on the overall pepper notes. Now, the way that it is hitting the mouth and hitting the gums and tongue, a little bit of a sting, but it's more of a little slow burn, a slow ember. Front of the mouth, front of the tongue, the gums, the lips, pretty good right off the bat. And then now it is kind of parked itself more towards the back of the mouth. Not quite the back of the throat, but the back of the mouth area. And it is just sitting there, sizzling, and just a flavor bomb of amazingness on the taste buds. Versatility-wise, this thing is going to go great on burgers, sandwiches, tacos, pizzas. The only thing I probably wouldn't utilize this thing on is going to be a dessert. It's not geared towards that. No harm, no foul. If you're just starting out, you're going to be able to enjoy this sauce, but do so in moderation as you start to figure out where you feel comfortable. Obviously, pairing this with food, in food, is going to be able to kind of help cut and offset some of that heat, as opposed to just eating it straight off a spoon like this. Working on your own personal best. You've been pushing yourself. I'm so salivating like crazy off this one. This will be a nice medium to mild sauce, depending on where your tolerance is, but I would say a nice medium sauce easily for you all day, every day on this overall sauce. Read off some ingredients, because now I'm curious as to what is in here. Onions, red jalapenos, and then it says brine, which consists of water and salt, apple cider vinegar, golden raisins, black winter truffle, and then shiitake mushrooms. There we go. Tomato paste, truffle oil, malt, vinegar, and spices. And to find a hot sauce that does the black truffle or truffle in general and does it in a way that is not repulsive is amazing, because there's not too many out there. A lot have tried to do a truffle style hot sauce and have just not executed on it well. Pepper and Thyme Foods, y'all have absolutely knocked it out of the park. Heat coming in at 3.2, aroma of 4.2, flavor of 4.34, versatility of a 4, burn of a 3.4, for a total swear word rating of 3.83. If you enjoyed these sauces here tonight, I will have the direct links down below so you can check out these direct sauces, as well as a main link to the website so you can check out the full lineup of amazing products from Pepper and Thyme Foods. Highly recommend checking out these sauces. That Thai Princess, if you're looking for anything with a spicing up an Asian dish, that is your absolute go-to. You need to try it. You need to grab it. And if you have tried truffle sauces and been let down by the overall flavor and experience that they deliver, you need to head on over and check out Masala Madness. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the interview. Hey, Donivan, how's it going?
Going great. How you doing?
Man, doing great. Glad to have you here. Obviously, have had the pleasure of meeting you at not only Zest Fest most recently, but before that at the North Texas Hot Sauce Fest. And both you and your wife out there are doing amazing things, have such a great lineup of sauces, and can't wait to learn more about Pepper and Thyme.
Thank you so much, man. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I always like to start off with, it's always to kind of get that ice broken and get this ball rolling, which is what got you into the world of hot, and what was that moment that you were like, I'm going to go create my own spicy products?
Oh man. I've loved spicy foods my whole life. I never thought I'd actually be doing this full time, but here we are. Um, it was a COVID change, like most people, COVID happened and we actually had more time at the house and more time from just working our 9 to 5s. So I was able to actually dive into the whole hot sauce and spice thing. And I originally dabbled in it when I was in culinary school, but I didn't really take it too seriously then. It was just kind of something I was doing for friends. And then after that, I kept going to the store looking for certain types of sauces, and I just got burnt out on the more, general available sauces. So I just was like, what, I can do this myself. And
Yep.
then I tried it the first time, and originally I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. It's kind of cool. But then I actually got other people's feedback, and they loved it so much that I was like, all right, maybe this is better than I even imagined, and I can actually take this further. So started it.
Very nice. Now, it's always one of those moments, definitely for those, whether you're making a product or not, that catapulting moment to really be going from like you're at the store, you're checking things out, and often you're just like, it almost starts to become a little bit lackluster, right? To be able to
Yeah.
push past and figure out, okay, what am I looking for? What am I missing? During that kind of time frame, was there a specific ingredient or a flavor note that was really standing out that you were trying to find in those store brands?
I think it was a certain combination of flavor. The depth of flavor just wasn't there for me in the store. Most things in the store were just kind of vinegar forward. And then I was like, okay, cool. But, sometimes you want something a little different. And I just couldn't find that. And then it was the Torchbearers Honey Badger. I tried that. And that was I believe I got it from Ace Hardware. And that was a lot different than the majority of hot sauce I could find in the normal stores. And I was like, all right, so there's a depth of flavor here that you can actually achieve and it can be done. So for me, it was and I believe that's a mustard based hot sauce. And even that alone was very impressive to me because I had never seen it before. Like you see your mustard style like barbecue sauces, but never hot sauces. So the mustard based sauces and the ability to do that kind of inspired me. And then that's kind of what started it.
Nice. Well, so with that, I guess kind of driving that forward, what was that first sauce that you ended up making for yourself? Whether it still exists or not, what was that kind of first iteration?
The first iteration for us was Garden Heat, which is a roasted tomato and herb hot sauce. And I actually originally wasn't planning on making it a hot sauce. I had just fermented it for like I used cherry tomatoes and I fermented it for people at work. I was fermenting it and it was originally supposed to be a special for a dish I was making. And it was delicious. It tasted like pizza in a jar. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I was like, okay, well, what if I just blend this? I just made it into a sauce. And then I did that. And then after that, I was like, all right, so I can take a step further and actually make this into a full blown sauce and actually like expanded the recipe. And it really works. And that actually what inspired the name Pepper and Thyme because the first sauce we had was thyme based. And yeah, that's when I started it.
Okay. Well, hey, that checked off the next thing that I was, kind of gearing up towards, which is really understanding a better idea of how you got the name and how you got the whole idea of now, it's very fitting time, and then the overall logo being a clock with a pepper on it.
Yes, sir.
It is very fitting there. I guess how long did that process really take? Was it just simply that one sauce kind of just cemented the overall brand and logo right then, or are you tinkering with it for a bit?
Um, it took, yeah, I tinkered with it for a little bit because at first I wasn't really sure on the name. I knew that it was gonna be something like, at first I thought it was gonna be like something, something sauce company. Um, but over time I kept playing with and I realized I was fermenting everything that I was using just to get a certain level of depth of flavor. And I didn't want to add vinegar to all of my sauces just to maintain the chef stability. So I was like, okay, ferment everything, and it takes time to do that. I was
Hmm.
like, so all right. And then the first sauce had thyme in it, and I was like pepper and thyme, and it just kind of worked out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's super cool. And it's I love the playful nature. I love the you got both the imagery, the play on words. How I guess it's got to be there's got to be somebody that maybe they're listening and watching to this now, and they're going pepper and thyme, and instead of spelling out time with as the herb, they're typing in time as in the time of day.
yeah.
It's got to be a fun one to for those individuals that are maybe not very familiar with these different herbs. Those a lot of the folks that don't cook may not understand kind of what time is. They may know it whenever they taste it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to be a fun
Yeah.
one to hear. Do you ever get anyone that walks up and they're confused as what time is?
Oh yes, yes. Actually, our name is probably the most eye-catching thing about us. People walk up, even people who don't want hot sauce, and they're like, "Okay." I've had people come up like, "Okay, I don't eat hot sauce. I don't do spicy foods, but please just tell me, like, what does your name mean? And how did you get there? So I'm answering that question all the time. But it's a nice conversation starter, so I really like it. It draws people in, and asks people actually to care about the company and be interested. So I think I did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've got we've talked about the first sauce that you started out with, and how you kind of got the ball rolling. But you have quite the lineup going on. How long did it take you to really start crafting and figuring out each one of these sauces? And I assume there's probably some that kind of died along the way.
Yeah, yeah. So honestly, they come pretty quick to me. And more so because I've become very inspired as I enter the kitchen, and I just don't really like making the same sauces twice. So it was kind of like, okay, every time I go to the kitchen, like my wife even tell me like, okay, you're gonna go in there, you're going there to make a certain sauce for a certain reason. Um, that's it, like stick to that. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And I go in there and I end up making 3 or 4 different sauces I had never planned on making. I really just get inspired by the ingredients that I'm using or certain flavor profiles that I enjoy. So then I just kind of go and try to recreate those. And then yeah, like some of them, they kind of like they're one shots because once again I don't like making the same sauce twice. Most recently, I think the one that we stopped making was double dip queso, and it was
Okay.
a vegan queso style hot sauce to kind of recreate the queso and taco night kind of thing. And it was a red jalapeno based sauce, and it was really nice. But I just didn't want to make it twice, So I was like, all right, we'll just lay that one to rest and maybe come back to it if we're feeling like a cheesy flavor one day, and
Yeah. That's also something that has been really kind of taking off lately is kind of the alternatives to things like queso. And it's always fun to see how this is executed. And for those that are like diehard queso fans, to find something that's a queso alternative, and then them like be floored by it is got to be a pretty a nice vote of confidence. We'll put it that way
yeah,
on the overall product. From
yeah.
a flow and consistency standpoint of that sauce, was it did it kind of react very similar in a sense that like it flowed a lot faster whenever it was hotter compared to did it get pretty nice and thick and kind of a slow flow whenever it was cool?
Yeah, it was pretty consistent flow, regardless of temperature. It was pretty much like all of my other sauces, just like your general hot sauce, like more of a thicker consistency. Um, Try to keep it like that just so, it's easier to use and it's not running off and running around the place. And I also was thinking that the applications for it might be more messy, more for like nachos or burgers or stuff like that. So I was like, wanted to keep it kind of tight so it could actually hold up and not be too messy when people are trying to eat it.
Yep. Yep. No, definitely. That that makes perfect sense because that's I mean, you do kind of limit whenever it is extremely runny and it doesn't hold to food because then you have the issue of more of it falls on your plate or bowl than it
Yeah.
stays on the food. But there's also kind of those trade-offs there. There's some of those that just work better in other ingredients or in other dishes. So yeah. So with I guess really being able to hone in on the culinary aspect, is that something that you do for a profession on a day to day? Like, how did the whole culinary aspect get started, and I guess where did you end up putting it to work? I know you went to culinary school, you said so.
Yes, sir. I went to the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, in Napa Valley, California. And I originally went there for pastry. And I graduated from pastry, and I did that for a couple years afterwards. And then ever since then, I've over a decade now. I've been working in kitchens around everywhere. So it's been very influential toward the business. I can't imagine doing anything other than the kitchen, like not doing something food related seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
So it's like just the playing with ingredients, the hustle and bustle of the kitchen, the energy there. It's it's what started everything, man. Like I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for that. And then my love for that just came from growing up with my family. My family cooked a lot. My grandma spent a lot of time in the kitchen with my grandma growing up, and she would just like help me teach me how to bake and like show me how little things here and there and like how to, growing up with her, it was like nothing was like measured out. It was just like taste this, taste that. That's when you know it's right,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Yep.
kind of how I've always cooked. The baking aspect was a little different just because you have to be so precise when you're
Yep.
baking. Otherwise, your product is done. It's not going to be what you want it to be. But as far as everything else, it's really just like have fun and just go for it. And you have a little bit more freedom to kind of play around and mess around. Um, but yeah, so that's influenced the sauces a lot. That's how I make my sauces. That's why we have such a variety of different flavors because they're all just like chef ingredient based. It's all about like deep flavor. A lot of times I actually make my sauces backwards. I go for a flavor profile first, and then I'll add the peppers and the spice at the end. Because I just like know what peppers pair well with those flavor profiles, and then I'll just kind of go that way, and that usually works out for me. When I was trying to make sauces in a more traditional way, like vinegar, garlic, and onions, just like your more traditional ingredients for hot sauces. And I was like, why is this not as good as my food? And I was kind of perplexed. I was like, what's going on? Like, I know how to make good flavor profiles. Like, why is this not what it's supposed to be? Then I realized, like, oh, well, it's because I'm just, I'm not really cooking. I'm not making the sauce the way I cook. I'm being too traditional with it. I was like,
Hmm.
I need to make the sauce the way that I cook and the way that I do handle food. And then ever since then, it's been going well. The flavor's been there. Customer feedback's been amazing, and our variety is like no one I've seen so far. Um, People that's like I have people come up and they want to buy multiples because they're like, okay, you have one here that's berry based, spicy berry hot sauce, and you have one that's like a truffle hot sauce, and then you have one that's just like a collection of nothing but different type of peppers. So it's just the variety helps us out a lot, and that kind of thing what defines us as a company.
Yeah, definitely. And hats off to you there with the whole baking aspect. That's like the one area that I can never. It's that precision. It's like you're saying. I
Yeah,
was
again,
taught and raised by many different family members that knew how to cook to some level, right? But definitely my grandmother and watching my mom cook and my dad cook, just kind of seeing how they did it. But as you're saying as well, I can definitely relate on the aspect of watching my grandmother cook because she did a lot that was not by the recipe book. Like she may see what the ingredients are, but she did everything by heart, by feel, by just overall smell. And she was like, all right, this is it. This is how it's supposed to be. And so that's how I quickly learned and taught myself as well, continuing on throughout life. But baking, because of that, the way that I was taught and introduced to
yeah.
the idea of cooking, I stay clear of baking. It just never works out for me.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, I'm not doing too much baking these days either. It was stressful, like baking with your grandma and baking with friends and family is like, okay, it's great. Let's make a few cookies here or make cake there. Like, it's nice and like wholesome, but when you're in the restaurant industry and people are asking for hundreds of this and this is how many people covers we have a night and these composed dishes have to be perfect, like it gets stressful,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's definitely something freeing and emotional and motivating that kind of comes from the idea of being able to create something with your heart and your soul and really just pouring out that creativity into each and
Yeah.
everything that you have, and so to be able to see that reflected in your sauces is great because as you're saying, so many build out with the idea of let's have the heat in mind and then work backwards. But all the sauce makers that I've talked to that have been the most successful are the ones that start, as you're saying, let's find a good base, let's kind of find a good flavor profile, right?
Yeah.
And the heat can be added afterwards. You can dial up, but you can't dial back. So little
Yeah.
increments going in, and you can kind of really find out where that sauce really hits its high note, if you will. And
Yeah.
so then you've got it perfected, and then you don't have to worry about it. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
at the same time, has there been any kind of sauces that you have been working on and tinkering with, and all of a sudden you think you get it there, and then it's like maybe a few months later, and you're like, you know what, this would be a little bit better if I just added this or changed that or taken out just a little bit of this. Has that kind of
Yeah.
crossed the path?
Honestly, I would say it's probably our first sauce, Garden Heat. I like it so much, and it has more of a sentimental value to me, you know. But then I'll have it, and I'm like, okay, I can tweak this a little bit here, a little bit there, and maybe I can change this or change that. But I'm trying to leave it kind of like as our flagship and our most versatile sauce that can be used across the board. It's like our buffalo style sauce or American style sauce. So I try not to tweak it too much, but I always want to, because it's like I can make this better, you know. But sometimes, but for the role it's supposed to play, I think it does a really good job at that. But I always want to push the limits on that sauce. But really, I should just leave it alone. Like
Yeah.
it's great and it does its job. But all of our other sauces, they're more, I guess, a little bit more out there and a little bit more pushing the boundaries on flavor and concepts. And so yeah, I take the garden heat. Yeah, I always want to go back and tinker with it, but I really should just not, and because it helps people who also it's also our mildest sauce,
Mm.
So when people are coming up, a lot of people are they're like, all right, like everyone's level of heat is different, so most people who don't like a lot of heat, they like garden heat. They enjoy that sauce. They like it. They think it's versatile. They think it's great. So I should just kind of leave that there for them. But I always want to change it around a little bit.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't. Yeah.
Well,
But
it could be
but
fun to
also I
do a different iteration of it, and just,
yeah
I mean, obviously leave that one
yeah
and just be a limited run, and then you have
yeah
a playful version.
yeah. That's what I was thinking. Because I was thinking about making another version of it, and just make it hotter, just make it more like robust and bold. So maybe that'll come out further down the line. Right now, it's playing its place in the mild level, and I think it works out because a lot of people they get scared when they see certain levels of some types of peppers. Like when you see a Carolina Reaper on something, or a ghost pepper, or a scorpion pepper, then some people are like, oh, like that's a bit much for me. But I try to always tell people like just try it. I try to start them at the beginning and walk them through the lineup so they can see that our sauces are very well balanced and they're not going to scare you away or anything. And I have people that tell me all the time like habaneros are too hot for me, but almost all of my sauces have habaneros in them in one variety or another. And I'm like, to start here at the beginning with garden heat, and then after that, let's just walk you through it. And most people make it further through the lineup than they originally would have imagined, or end up eating peppers that they feel like are too spicy for them. And I tell them like, just try it. Like it's all a level. It's just how much of that pepper are you experiencing, and like how is the pepper being delivered. I find that matters a lot because sometimes I use the same pepper, but I'll have it in two different sauces. But depending on the other ingredients that are with those, when you combine them, you may experience something being milder than you originally would have. People
Yeah.
try a sauce that has jalapenos in it and they feel like it's spicier than my habanero sauce, depending on the other ingredients that pair along with the pepper.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Can see where that plays out. And yeah, it's like, as you're saying, it's the idea of knowing the ingredients, getting creative with them, and the way that you utilize them is really going to be impacting the overall heat delivery to that sauce. Yeah, I guess that kind of also, we talked about as well, the you having basically like your entry sauce, but as people gather in, they jump into your sauce lineup. Where do you see people really gravitating around? Has there been kind of like one or two that has stood out as more of a fan favorite? And then from your aspect, whether it's your overall favorite or not, you can do that. But just, is there one that's really been standing out to you more and more of a use case for you these days?
Yes, sir. By far, our most popular fan picks would be a Masala Madness, which is a garlic and truffle hot sauce. That's been number one, like across the board. And then coming in second is our Southern Sriracha. It's just our take on Sriracha. And then we use molasses and brown sugar to get our sweetness, and people love it.
Hmm.
Those are by far our best sellers. You get the best reviews on that, and I think it's because it's servicing people for things they're kind of familiar with already. It's just done in a way they really appreciate. Um, so yeah, the Masala Madness, and Masala Madness actually is one of my best sellers, if not my best seller. But it was supposed to just be a one off. Like it was, I had no intentions of making that sauce more than once. I actually was going into the kitchen to make a different sauce and realized I was missing an ingredient to make that. And I was like, well, okay, well, I've set everything up and I've sanitized everything, so I'm gonna have to make something. And I was actually able to bring my sister into the kitchen, and I was like, you know what, like let's just make a sauce real quick to try to get some, sibling time together. And we ended up making Masala Madness. And like halfway through, I was just like, man, like this sauce is actually kind of coming together right now. I was like, let's just see what happens. And it was great. And that's like you were saying earlier at the North Texas Hot Sauce Festival. That's where I made the debut with it, and it was actually our best seller that day. And it's been that way ever since. And that's what kind of kept it on the shelves. I was like, well, I had no intentions of making it again, but people love this so much, so I think it's going to be a staple now. And then also same thing with Southern Sriracha. Southern Sriracha was actually the second sauce that I made. a few years back, and I made it once, and it sold well. But at that point, I was still like really new to making sauces, and I was more interested in making a variety of sauces rather than just repeating the same sauces. So I didn't make it again for years, you know. And then my wife was like, "You should make Southern Sriracha again. People love that." And I was like, really? Like, did they? Like, I don't even remember. I don't even remember the feedback I got from that. You know, and I was like, all right, cool, I'll make it again. And then it was actually Zets Fest. Zets Fest was the second time I've made it since 2021, I believe. And I was like, all right, and flying off the shelves, you know, and people love it,
Yep.
you know. And ever since then, I've people just Southern Sriracha and Masala Madness, you know. So yeah, those definitely stand out in my lineup.
Yeah, I absolutely loved the Southern Sriracha. I know my son did as well, as we were both trying it at Zest Fest. And it's very interesting because it's familiar, but it's also unique. And that's the
Yeah,
part that makes it that beautiful marriage between the two, because it kind of bridges that gap of like, well, it's not the same old everyday sriracha you're just gonna get, going to walking down to the
yeah,
store. You're going to get a lot more flavor, a lot more pop, and really the notes just stand out more as to where most of the stuff you'll get at the local stores, it's kind of a one note hitter, and that's it.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I can definitely see where that would play out. And to that
yeah.
same point, you had mentioned basically having the recipes on the shelf. I know that that's oftentimes, mostly for those that are not with a culinary background, the biggest hurdle in staying consistent, which is writing down that recipe. And so that's I was gonna say that, but then thinking about it, it's probably reversed, because you do have that culinary background. It's more the, as you were saying, the responses, not remembering it. It's like that's the stuff that just easily gets processed and moved out, from storage, if you
Yeah.
will, of the brain power. So
Yeah. Yeah, I
uh,
definitely I have a hard time with the writing the recipes part, you know, because I just walk in the kitchen and the ingredients just make so much sense to me. So I just kind of put them together the way that I know the flavor profile I'm looking for, and I just combine them and create them that way. And it'll just happen so quickly that I'm like, okay, wait. Like sometimes I have to stop and I have to go back, and I'm like, man, I just added like 7 ingredients just now. Like what did I just do? And I had to really sit down, like I had to recreate this, you know. So I'm like,
yep,
you know, and I was really bad about it when I first started. I wasn't writing recipes down, or I would like quickly jot down recipes just so I could like calculate further things for the batch. You know, I'd write them down like on a piece of paper or a piece of cardboard real quick, and just kind of keep going what I was doing. But definitely had to work on that so I can actually recreate things, and because I was getting to the point, I was like, all right, so we're really doing this. We're taking this so seriously. Like I need to know how to recreate these things or like make it or scale the batch up and like what did I actually put in there and be a little bit more selective with my ingredients because ingredient sourcing is important if I want consistency.
yep,
So like, you know, you might have a really nice rare ingredient right here, but it's like, all right, like where can I find that again? You
yep,
know, like if I have to go out of the country for it or I have to special order it, you know, it's not as practical for a business standpoint. So I kind of had to make sure that I'm sourcing my ingredients better and I'm making sure they're easily available to grab because like something might be delicious, but if you can only do it once, it's not too good for you. Yeah, so that's actually how I came up with Fallout. Fallout was the sauce that I was originally trying to make when I made Masala Madness.
okay,
But I didn't have the ingredients at the time to fully make it, and then I afterwards went and got them, and then ended up becoming my personal favorite hot sauce. This is one I reach for pretty much everything. It's the mustard based hot sauce,
mm-hmm.
um, mustard and chipotles and red jalapenos, and that's my go-to. That's the one I love. But yeah, once again, like it's just the sourcing ingredients is really important because, like honestly, if it wasn't for that, I guess I wouldn't have Masala Madness. But that's not really a good, it's not a good business model to be following. So yeah, so source ingredients is more. It's been important.
Yeah. Well, and I guess to tie off on that as well, I guess really kind of two areas. The one thing that's, in my opinion, poorly done across the industry and that you've been able to do really well is the incorporation of truffle. I feel like there's a lot of people that have tried to work truffle into a recipe and it's gone horrid. So
Yeah.
for you to be able to have that work out for you is absolutely amazing. Now, with that in mind and a sourcing aspect, how hard is that to really kind of go through and find and make sure that it's up to standard for what you're trying to execute on?
Yeah, it's definitely a task. It's definitely one of the harder ingredients to continuously find and source, especially to also make profitable. Like it's not easy,
Yeah.
and it's one and that was another reason why Masala Man is supposed to just be like a one off, inspiration kind of thing. Just because I'm like, well, I'm not like I have these truffles here. Like, why would I be sourcing truffles for a hot sauce right now? Like, it makes no sense. It just makes no sense. So I was like, at the scale that we're at, like, there's no reason for me to be doing this right now. So it's supposed to be a one and done. But like I say, it's just when you see people enjoy it so much, I kind of just take the financial hit on that particular sauce just because people enjoy it so much, and it kind of lets people further explore the level of flavor that we're able to provide. So I think it just kind of does. It plays a few roles for our company. So less more so for advertisement purposes and just people seeing how we do things and working with ingredients that may be more difficult to applicate in different dishes and stuff. So if we can do that well, I think that allows people to try and trust that we can do other things. So it does a good job at just showing our capabilities. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned, having family in the kitchen, helping out, and really, we touched on the overall inspiration and early motivation, if you will, to, get feedback and get going. But how has your family been from a, standpoint of just overall? Are they encouraging of you as you continue this path? Are they leaning into more a specific sauce than another? How has that kind of been?
Well, yes, my family has always been super encouraging. They've always believed that I could do this. Anything that I go to do, they encouraged me to go to culinary school. They knew I was going to be a chef since I was little. I was 5 years old, 6 years old, watching Rachel Ray and Paula Deen in the kitchen. Like I was that guy. Like if you put the TV on, I wanted to be on the food channel. So I've always been there. I've always been very encouraging. They do have their sauce favorites, and then as I come out with new sauces, they kind of like compare them to their favorites. Like, okay, well, this is my new favorite. Okay, well, it's that one. And especially my mom. Like, since I don't like to make a lot of sauces more than once, some things are special releases and stuff. And so if she tries something that she really likes, she'll buy a few bottles from me, because she's like, I'll probably never see this again, So, and then my sister's always been really encouraging. She actually creates the artwork on my bottles.
Oh, very
So,
nice.
yeah, so my main lineup of sauces, they all have artwork on the back, and then so she does all that for me. She does a fantastic job. Um, so yeah, she's just amazing, But yes, my family's been very encouraging. I guess you won't be able to see it right there because it's actually on the back of the bottle.
Okay.
But yeah, so she does do great work for me. She helps me advertise and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, my family is amazing, and especially my wife as well. She has been essential to this part of the business, especially for the administrative side and just being the bubbly, happy, friendly face that you see when you come to events.
Oh yeah.
Like her smile draws in the customers, man. So, she's the one up late at night, help me shrink wrap and label bottles and stuff like that. And if we have an event to be at 8, if we come down to it, she doesn't mind still packing things up at 4 in the morning,
That's
knowing that we have somewhere to be. So she's always had my back, and I couldn't be doing this without her.
That is awesome to hear. Oftentimes, uh, any kind of business venture, doesn't matter what it is, trying to go out, do this thing on your own is already hard enough as it is. But having the support of family, both extended and immediate, it is huge to be able to have that support system. So that's awesome to hear. And yes, she does a great job at making sure that everyone feels welcome and happy and bringing them on in over to the table. So shout out to her on that. You know, you had mentioned something as well, and I know with quite the lineup as well that you have going on. And then you got the spice blends. What does a typical cook day look like for you? Are you making just one or two sauces per cook day? Because I wouldn't imagine you would be, very alive after doing all of these, say, in
Yeah.
one day. But what does that kind of shake out for you?
Yeah, so I try to just kind of look at the day, and I know the some sauces is gonna take longer than others. So I try to pair the sauces that I can knock out quickly all together. If I can knock out three or four sauces of my quick sauces in one day, I'll do that. I'll do that, and then the sauce that take a little bit longer, I'll work on those, and I'll knock those out on my spice blends on the same day.
Okay.
And on a good day, if I don't get distracted, and that's a big part of that. On a good day, I can probably make three to four sauces. If everything goes according to plan, so I make them pretty quickly because once they like it's once again the culinary background goes into play with that. Like knowing how to move in the kitchen and how to properly have your ingredients laid out for you to make everything efficient as possible. And it just I can't imagine how long it would take me to do this if I wasn't so used to being in the kitchen already. So I can walk into a kitchen if I know what I need to do already in my mind. I can toss in an hour. From like measuring ingredients to bottling. But it really just it depends on if I'm in chef mode, I can move. But if I'm just like lackadaisical and like trying new ingredients and just like being inspired and just like, oh, let's just do some new stuff, I'll be there 4 hours, four
Yep.
or 5 hours and get one sauce done. So it kind of the mindset plays a big part of it. The spice blends work well for us just because they're very quick. They do comparatively to the sauces, so I can knock all those out in the same day. That's not an issue. But once again, it kind of it determines about like if I'm doing R&D in the same day or if I'm just strictly doing production. When I combine the two is when I look up and the sun's coming back up. you know
Yeah. Yep.
and it's like so if I can keep those two things separate, then I kind of know what I'm getting myself into. But yeah, the sauces don't take too long to reproduce as long as I have my ingredients and I'm prepared to work and I'm mentally there. It's and I feel comfortable in the kitchen, so the time will pass by and I won't even realize. It's but doing 12 hours in a restaurant kitchen versus just doing your sauces is much different. So I look up and I'm like, I didn't even realize that much time passed. I'm totally fine. I'm happy doing this too. So
Yeah.
it kind of has a big part, of how tired you feel. Like, do you actually enjoy what you're doing? And do you feel like does it matter to you versus just kind of the hustle and bustle?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, the I can fully understand and relate to the idea of losing track of time in the kitchen. It's I like to oftentimes I'll toss on a podcast that I want to listen to. I'll throw on some music and just that's where it gets really bad. Is I'll start listening to some music and I'll be jamming out. Next thing you know, I'm like, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
well, something that should have only taken me 20 minutes is now taking me 45. So it's like
yeah.
that slides away real quick on it. But is there something that you end up listening to kind of keep you going, and or does that tend to distract you more?
I'll put music on. Like if I'm really like in chef mode, I'll turn some music up loud and like, you just run around the kitchen, just knocking everything out. But if I'm just like in R&D mode and I'm just kind of chilling, I'll put anime on. I have anime playing in the background and just kind of end up watching that than cooking. That's usually how that goes. So like my music doesn't slow me down or distract me. I think it actually makes me move faster. But if I put something interesting on, then it's gonna slow me down. Audiobooks help a lot to stay like. If I'm just really not feeling like being in the kitchen, but I know I gotta get work done. Audiobooks kind of distract me from that. Kind of just focus on the audiobook and just kind of fight through it. So I
Yep.
guess it's kind of like depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Music. If I'm like raring to go. Audiobooks if I don't really want to be here today, you know, and then anime if I'm just like it's R&D time. Let's just be in a good mood and play around for some things and just see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, with all the the R&D, that makes sense because you got the bright colors, you got a lot going on. It's like a little bit more, overly exaggerated, if you will, with the
Yeah.
anime side of things than just your typical show that you could have on. So, to be able to try an ingredient, sit there, think about it, watch something, else really just explode with inspiration and motivation, if you will, just by on the screen, to kind of help that brain process. I can see where that would at least work out, as I'm thinking this whole thing through, as a great avenue. With the R&D side of things and the different ingredients as you get used to them or new introduced to them and all this stuff, do you still have maybe some is most of this derived from ingredients that you'll see through the kitchen, or other chefs that that are also in the kitchen and they're seeing either a somewhat new ingredient to them, or just they're like, hey, this could be interesting to see?
It kind of goes both ways. Some things I'm just inspired by the ingredient themselves. Like a lot of times in the kitchen, you have a single ingredient and then you build like a tasting menu based around that. If you're really trying to showcase a certain ingredient. So I do that as well. And sometimes it's just walking through the grocery store. I walk through the grocery store and I'll see, and ironically enough, I don't pull up much inspiration from sauces, but I pull more from composed meals. And as I walk through the grocery store and I look at food, I'll think about like, okay, like what goes well with that? Like what are the flavor profiles of that dish? And how could I transfer that into a sauce and have people be able to just buy the sauce without having to make the whole meal to achieve that flavor that they're looking for?
Yep.
So I do that. And then also I think it comes from just like emotions. Like some things are just tied to some emotions, and I try to recreate that. Like as far as a like Thanksgiving. I was like, all right, Thanksgiving is a wonderful time. Like everyone, it's a family oriented time. Okay, like what sauce? What would that taste like? What would Thanksgiving taste like in a bottle? So then I kind of reach for like your cranberries, because people use cranberry sauce throughout Thanksgiving, or sweet potato, so it's like, what is a sweet potato cranberry sauce? Like what would that taste like? How do you make that into a hot sauce but also make sense?
Hmm.
To where people actually enjoy it, and
Yep.
that's kind of my inspiration, because I feel like if I can recreate a memory for you or a certain emotion, then you'll love it.
Oh yeah.
Like if it would make nothing mean, it would nothing would make me happier than to have people go reach for like a cranberry Thanksgiving inspired sauce for your holidays instead of just the basic cranberry sauce that you would buy out the can at the grocery store. So that's kind of the inspiration for a lot of my sauces. I try to just recreate things I know people love, things that mean something to me, and then other things that I haven't seen done before that I just think would be really cool.
Yep. I was trying to find the sauce because it's the name of the sauce is escaping me, but the second you were mentioning that popped in my head because of course you did exactly that. You were able to recreate a memory, a core memory that is most of us that grew up in the late '80s to '90s. Pizza Hut, the fennel aspect, that fennel taste and
Oh
that
yeah,
fennel smell, that a lot of people don't understand that was a core ingredient to Pizza Hut pizza, CC's pizza, all the places that were trying
yeah,
to. You were going there with the intent of eating a lot. They would put that on there to make it to where it makes your stomach kind of feel better, digest the food
yeah.
better, and
Yes, the fellow professor.
yeah. Oh gosh,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
it was so good.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, that was actually one of our limited releases. We actually recently sold out of that a few days ago. But yeah, like you said, like it's a core memory, like this the Philly pizza. It's like if you know, if you were there for it, then
Yep.
it would pull all those memories back to the forefront. And that was had fatale peppers in it and black peppercorns, and then the fennel, of course. And yeah, I love the sauce. My wife loved it. She was huge into the fennel pizza back in the day. And she even to today she asked me to make. But like we get pizza, she's like, man, why don't people just sell fennel pizza anymore? Like, what happened to that? You know,
Yep.
so she was kind of the inspiration for that sauce, and that's why I made it. And it's one of the things like people, especially like our generation of people, like they really like they would try it and they were like, "Whoa, like where have I had that before?" You
Yep.
know, and then it's like it's pizza, you know, and like you don't even remember, like you don't even think about it, but you're
Yep.
like, wow, like you're right, like that's what growing up, like that flavor profile was on so many pieces we had, you
Yep.
know, so people really enjoyed it for that. So I really just I want to do more of that, you know, and then like every sauce that we have, I want you to be able to try it and have like a core memory linked to it, and if you don't, then create a core memory for that, you know. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I do have. We'll jump into one more question, then I have a very fun game planned here. So, this I guess this last question is going to be more geared around the idea of as you've been growing, as you've been getting out there, slinging sauce, making memories happen, and motivating people. What has been kind of on a more business side of things? What has been something that you've been trying to work on, or you find that seems to be more of a headache as of like, whether that's been recently or something you're experiencing now?
See, for me personally, the social media aspect. You know, I'm not big into the posting on social media and all that. And taking a bunch of pictures and stuff. I have to be reminded to record content, and I'll record content. I'll forget to post it. And like but it's like it's the way of the world these days. You know, when you are looking for something or you have a question about something, you have the luxury of just hopping online and looking at reviews and seeing how far it is and how the availability is. So much of it is online,
Yep.
so that's been a struggle for me, because if you're doing a great job, but only the people that you're interacting with face to face are there, then you're missing out on a lot. You're
Yep.
missing out on a lot because so many more people are online.
Yep.
You can reach such a wider audience. Been online. Your online presence should be there. So that's definitely something I need to be more diligent on and more consistent with. So I was like, that's a big part of this understanding that the times that we live in, and it's a digital era. So if you're out there advertising or trying to get yourself seen or known, you should be online. Be on the social media sites, and even if you're not big into the whole social media thing, you should be posting here or there. Just letting people know that you exist, and at least the upcoming events and stuff like that. And I'll say that, and then also just being aware, keeping cost in mind, resource management. Like if you have a certain budget and you need a bunch of things to get done, then you make sure you're spreading your resources out appropriately and not just going all in on one thing. Because it would suck if you go all in on one thing and then opportunities down the line they open up, but you don't have the resource to actually make those happen. So it's kind of keep track of your resources and your budgeting and stuff, because it's important. Especially you want to be succeed and make this actually work. Like when you're keeping track of your recipes and keeping track of cost of goods, like just make sure you're tracking all that stuff and making sure you're staying profitable. And if you're gonna take the hit in one area on profit, make sure you're making up for it in another. Make sure all bases are covered. And then don't be afraid to take it slow and scale up slowly as your business allows you to. I know it's easy to be inspired and want to do a million things all at once, but if your pockets don't allow you to do that, don't do it. Because
Yep.
you stretch yourself too thin, it's just gonna more added stress. Like this is no need for that. Your business lets you know when it's able to scale and when it needs to and what it allows it to do. So just pay attention and just be aware and be present. And then yeah.
Absolutely. Very well said. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the game.
All right, let's do it.
All right, here we go. We have a very fun iteration of keep five, cut five. Now, the way this plays out is there's
Mhm.
10 ingredients here on the screen. I will read these off with the numbers for all those that are just audio listening only, and they're able to keep up with us. But the way that this works best is if you either start with a keep or start with a cut, but then you just have an alternating pattern throughout this to continue down this path. So, up first for number one. Now this is a specific type of mushroom, but I'm just going to leave this as mushrooms as a whole. So number 1 is mushrooms. Number 2 is dragon fruit. Number 3 is olive oil. Number 4 is papaya. Number 5 is shallot. Number 6 is agave. Number 7 is dates. Number 8, tamarind. Number 9, of course, how to make the list. That is thyme. And then number 10 is rosemary. So, no peppers here, but that we will touch on after you've kind of had a chance to figure out what ingredients you're going to keep. So, this could be a
Oh
sauce that
man.
you want or you think could be good, or maybe something that you pretty similar to something that you have already going on. So,
Okay, okay, let's see. Well, number one, I'm gonna have to keep time,
all right,
Wouldn't be right if I cannot to keep that.
absolutely.
Let's see. Um, I'm going to get rid of yeah, I'm gonna cut dragon fruit.
Okay.
Yeah, simply because like it's delicious. But if you don't receive it ripe, then it loses its special qualities.
Yep.
Um, gonna keeping mushrooms. Mushrooms are delicious and they have so much complexity there.
Absolutely.
Hmm. I'm going to get rid of. Hmm. Man, that's hard. I guess papaya. I'll
Okay.
get rid of papaya. Some people's preference on papaya can be hit or miss. Let's see. I'm gonna
I think
keep
it's
agave.
I think it's so good. I can't help but like I'll just eat some every so often, and what I'll do is make myself a nice smoothie. But then I also just eat the seeds. I don't even care. None of that bother me. So
Yeah, like and personally, like papaya, I love it. One of my favorite hot sauces I had. I don't remember the company. I got it from some random event I went to. It was a papaya and blueberry
oh, nice.
Indian inspired hot sauce, and man, that was the first bottle of sauce I ever just ate the entire bottle of. So I do love me some papaya, but I know people they might feel differently, so it's
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
go.
Unfortunately,
Okay, okay, let's see, and okay, I'm gonna keep. Yeah, okay, okay. So I'm keeping the agave. Let's
hmm
see. All right, we're gonna have to cut. Oh man. So what was number 7 again?
so number
What was that?
7 is dates. So here's what's left
Dates.
on the
Dates.
board.
Okay.
You have olive oil at number 3, shallots at number 5, 7 is dates, 8 is tamarind, and then 10 is rosemary.
All right, I'm gonna cut tamarind.
All
Let's
right.
cut tamarind. I do enjoy the flavor, but sometimes it's too bold. Might not as versatile. I'm going to keep keeping rosemary.
All right.
Keeping rosemary. All right. It's getting hard here.
Yep. So you got shallots,
Um,
olive oil, and dates.
oh, man. I'm gonna cut shallots just simply because I feel like you can probably get away with your red onions and sweet onions varietal.
Yep.
Yeah, shallots gotta go. All right, we're gonna I'm keeping the oil.
All
Keeping
right.
the oil, gives you a good mouthfeel. I guess I have to cut dates, man. I do enjoy dates because of their versatility and their sweetness.
Yep.
They're a big part of a lot of vegan baking and stuff. So dates are great, but I think I can get around it as far as sauce making. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a very well done lineup here. I tried to this time remove things that would be a given. The only one that was kind of that way, I guess the only two that were kind of that way, was olive oil and shallots. Both of those are not necessarily a given for most hot sauces, so that's why they still made the list here. But, um, you know, keeping salt, keeping all that other stuff, the garlic, the more common
Yeah.
essentials off this list here, kind of freed that up. Now, as you're thinking this through, was there a certain heat source or pepper, if you will, that really like kind of stood out in your mind?
For me, it's habaneros. I feel like habaneros are such a balanced pepper, especially if you're looking because you can control the heat level. They're not. they're not so spicy that if you add a little bit, it's gonna blow you out. You know, but they're also so flavorful. You know, they
Yep.
have tropical notes and they have so many different varieties that you can have different accents of notes here and there to complement everything. You know, like you see you have a few different fruits and agaves, and tamarind on here. Like that pairs very well with the orange habanero to me.
Yep.
You know, and then everything else, like if you want to go more darker, I would just reach for the red habaneros,
Yep.
you know, and then they have chocolate habaneros. You know, it's just like habaneros for me are a good middle point. I feel like if you are a true heat lover, you appreciate the heat level of a habanero. But also if you're just working the way up, you know, habanero might be like the top of the mountain for you. You know, so I feel like it's in between. You know, it's not a super hot. It's hotter than the Serrano. And it has so much flavor to it. So I feel like if I could only choose one pepper, for every sauce I would have to make, it would be a habanero.
Very, very nice. I could see that pairing out very well with that lineup too of ingredients that were selected. But hopefully you enjoyed that one. I was trying to think of a creative, fun way to be able to have you dive into some ingredients and kind of spark some of that overall idea and thought process that could come from it. So.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Well, one thing that we talked about earlier was obviously a little bit of a nugget of knowledge before we jumped into that. So don't really have to worry about that per se unless you have something that's really standing out to you that you wanted to mention. But if not, then this is your chance to put someone on the hot seat. This is someone that you think would make a great guest for the show.
Okay, well, see, next week we are releasing a new line of vinegars. We are currently working on expanding our sauce and spice blend availability. We did actually just release our first vinegar this week, actually. It's called Garnet Splash. It's
Okay.
a cayenne, red wine, and malt vinegar
Ooh.
combination. It's been doing pretty well. So if you haven't seen that yet, you know, be on the lookout for that. So yeah, next week we have a bunch of new things popping up, and we will be posting it on Instagram as well, so you'll know when that's available. As far as the hot seat, Tio Marcos, I think it's Tio Marcos, I believe. Their salsas. What was it? I think it was
They
Las
have the
Mayas Salsa Company.
Yep.
Yes, Las Mayas Salsa Company. Yeah, they're doing really good work, man. They're great. I recently had a chance to meet them for the first time at Zest Fest, and their sauces were amazing. I bought a few of those. Even their spice blends as well. Very nice, very nice. They have a rosemary salsa so it's a prickly pear salsa is what it is, but it has complements of rosemary notes to it, and it's phenomenal. So yeah, I would nominate them for sure.
Okay. Definitely a great choice there. Love what they have going on with the salsas. And yes, I did get to try out some of those blends this recent Zest Fest. So, uh, you know, definitely appreciate that nomination. And, yeah, I guess you kind of mentioned some upcoming products, but here's your chance to really let people know where they can find you, how they can find you, and if you have any announcements that you want to make.
All right. You can find us on Instagram, Pepper and Thyme Foods. We're also on Threads. And you can also order online, feel free, at pepperandthymesquare.site. And yeah, like just be on the lookout for us. And you're looking for really good sauces and deep flavor. You know, we balance everything. All of our sauces are fermented for a minimum of 3 months before we even go into production. You know, so if that's your thing, like come check us out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Donovan. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. There's still so much more we can dive into, so we'll look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Donovan, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. If you want to keep up with Pepper and Thyme, I will have the direct links down below, as well as links to all the socials, so you can keep up with Pepper and Thyme as these new products roll out. Definitely want to check those out. And hey, cannot do this without y'all. Thank you so much, Swear Nation, for making this show what it is. Continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads or individuals that are just curious about the world of hot, because this is where you can find everything to do with the world of hot. New iterations and updates will be rolling out. Let me know. I would love to hear what you think of them in the comments as I start to make tweaks and make this a little bit more of a fun and engaging aspect from the review standpoint all the way through. So Let me know in the comments what you think, as well as want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors, podvision.io. If you're looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all of those needs, as well as webdx.one. If you have an online site, maybe you had somebody, maybe you never had an online site, but it's not a great representation of you and how great your business is, highly recommend checking out webdx.one for all of those needs. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.